Waiting for freedom. Sometimes countries disagree. If disagreements between countries are not resolved, they can result in bodies. The 1979 Iran hostage crisis was the result of an unresolved disagreement between Iran and the United States. The hostage crisis led to celebrating successes, and dealing with consequences for both the United States and Iran. Even in times of conflict, successes can be achieved. The first success of the Iran hostage crisis happened because of quick thinking of the embassy employees. When the embassy workers saw that the embassy was being overtaken, they locked themselves in a vault containing important confidential documents. They began shredding the documents to minimize the security leaks about the United States government. This was helpful to the hostages because it made it hard for the captors to find incriminating evidence to share with the Middle East. Even in times of conflict, successes can be achieved. During the Iran hostage crisis, the success were limited and relied on the helping hands of our allies, Canada, and Canadian Ambassador to Iran, Ken Taylor. Taylor disguised 6 key U.S. diplomats, Joseph and Kathleen Stafford, Mark and Cora Lee Jack, Robert Anders, and Henry Schwartz, as Canadian business people and successfully smuggled them out of Iran unharmed. Of course, the biggest success of the hostage crisis was the ultimate negotiation and release of final 52 hostages 444 days after they were taken captive. Times of conflict will also lead to failures. One failure begins with L. Bruce Langan, the United States Charge d'Affaires. Langan was in charge because there was not a U.S. ambassador assigned in Iran. The Charge d'Affaires warned U.S. President Jimmy Carter not to offer the exiled Shah of Iran medical assistance in the United States. However, Carter did not heed Langan's advice and permitted the Shah into the United States for medical treatments. This act enraged Iranian citizens. Secondly, United States Marine Guards stationed at the U.S. Embassy in Iran were ordered not to shoot at intruders and therefore could not protect the employees working inside the embassy compound. Additionally, countries the United States thought of as allies failed to offer assistance needed to extricate the 6 diplomats who had eluded capture. Great Britain, New Zealand, and Sweden. Fearful of reprisals from Iran and therefore vetoed assisting our citizens in their escape from Iran. The United States rescue attempt, Operation Eagle Claw, was thwarted at the start at Desert One staging ground. Lack of proper equipment, planning failure, and pilot error caused the operation end in a fiery desert collision. President Carter addressed the nation on April 25, 1980, regarding the failed rescue attempt. Operation Eagle Claw resulted in the loss of 8 United States servicemen. Lastly, Jimmy Carter failed to negotiate the release to the American hostages in Iran during the last 15 months of his term, and his inability to secure the hostages' return home certainly impacted his presidential campaign for re-election. When there are successes and failures, there are also consequences that can be positive or negative. There were many consequences associated with the Iran hostage crisis. One positive consequence highlighted in the hostage situation was made possible because of our Canadian allies that were willing to help the 6 United States diplomats who had eluded capture. Canadian Ambassador Ken Taylor helped to ensure the rescue and escape of these 6 hostages, and they returned home safely. However, there were many more negative consequences for both Iran and the United States. Bruce Langan warned President Carter against allowing the exiled Shah of Iran to enter the U.S. for medical treatment. Unfortunately, President Carter honored the Shah's request to seek medical treatment in the United States. Assisting the Shah angered the people of Iran and resulted in their capture of our embassy and the taking of citizens hostage. Not only did negotiations fail with the Iranian government, but attempts to rescue the hostages failed also. The consequences of these failures were paid in the loss of U.S. servicemen, military assets, and most importantly, the delayed hostage release. President Carter was not able to bring home the hostages before the end of his presidency. Many historians believe the consequence is clearly visible in the outcome of the 1980 presidential election. Jimmy Carter lost his bid for re-election to Ronald Reagan. Although the Iranian students were able to take hostages in order to make a statement against the United States, Iran faced consequences because of their actions. In response to the embassy takeover, President Carter canceled oil imports from Iran to the United States, expelled many Iranians from the country, and froze $8 billion of Iranian assets in the United States. These are consequences experienced by the United States and Iran as a result of their successes and failures during the hostage crisis. Countries do disagree. 444 days of captivity. $52 hostages freed. Moments after Ronald Reagan's swearing in, as 40th President of the United States. Successes, failures, consequences, the Iran hostage crisis, a long wait for freedom.